It's always best to keep your expectations low when it comes to new content releases because sometimes they look amazing and end up being major disappointments, and DC's newest My Adventures with Superman series that recently premiered has upset fans with the art direction, magical girl Superman transformation, and race-swapped characters. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So starting with this Bounding Into Comics article, it says fans unhappy with art direction of My Adventures with Superman and slamming the magical girl Superman plus the race swaps. Now, I didn't even realize this series was premiering this week, and I did watch the content that's out, but it's only 2 episodes, so I can't fully judge it yet, but there's definitely a lot of red flags already. It says created by the Miss Marvel Volume 3 artist Jake Wyatt and co-produced by Netflix's own She-Ra and the Princesses of Power writer Josie Campbell and storyboard artist Brendan Kloger, the Studio Mir animated series follows the early days of Clark Kent's life in Metropolis as he attempts to balance his secret identity with his developing career as an investigative reporter alongside Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. Now, a lot of people did seem to actually have a bit of hype for this, primarily because it's another DC animated, and there have been several animateds that, in my opinion, have actually been pretty solid. Yeah, there's been a few duds, but generally they were, really good, and I mean, just judging a few, here's, the Flashpoint Paradox, 100% critic, but it's only got 6 reviews, but a 93 audience score. You have something like Justice League Doom, 100%, and then an 87% Justice League Dark, an 80 to a 70, all very good DC animated films in my opinion, so I was definitely looking, forward to at least seeing what this was going to be. I know a lot of other people were as well, but they definitely went in a very modern day direction with this series, it seems, distinguishing itself from other such DC projects by sorting a very obvious anime-inspired art style. It appears these ambitions to marry the West and the East have backfired thanks to this series leaning a little too hard into the more soft elements of its source's medium. Now, I instantly thought of She-Ra when I saw this. It's not necessarily a bad art style. I think that it does look good in quite a few of these shots, but I could tell that, this was not going to sit very well with everybody. Of course, they are taking an art style that basically makes everyone look soft and feminine, and when you have characters like Deathstroke and they look this way, well, people are clearly going to have a lot of criticisms to throw. I think that Superman looks a little bit too pretty, but you could definitely tell it was inspired by a few other series, and of course, we've got a She-Ra co-producer on this. It says, though, one such element to draw the ire of fans was how the hero, rather than changing into a separate physical costume, now switches into his role as the Man of Steel via a new transformation sequence, reminiscent of such legendary Japanese series as Sailor Moon or Saint Seiya. I think Sailor Moon is great, don't get me wrong, but we have seen a lot of Western creators try to copy this, and I just don't think that it works for Superman. I know a lot of people, as you can see, are roasting it, saying something like, every time there is some kind of transformation sequence in American animation nowadays, it has to be some kind of Sailor Moon reference. It just has to be. Why can't we be original? I completely agree. People saying things like the same people who worked on Netflix's She-Ra are giving us yet another shitty Sailor Moon ripoff with possibly more ships and representation. What a shocker. But then we get into some of the other issues with this, and of course, those focus on race swaps. Fans were livid over the changes that My Adventures with Superman had made to the villainess Leslie Willis, better known as her alter ego Livewire. When I saw that this was Livewire, I just could not believe it in my heart and soul, because there is nothing here that screams Livewire. And from what it seems like, they didn't just change her appearance, they changed everything about her. It says first introduced to DC canon in the eponymous Season 2 episode of Superman the Animated Series, the electrifying femme fatale was originally portrayed as a petite white woman who worked as a local metropolis shock jock. I mean, she was like a full-on goth-looking femme fatale. I mean, she always looked great. She was honestly kind of a bit of a bombshell, but she looked awesome. She had a very distinct style, and while she is, you know, a character that was, as it says, introduced in the Superman the Animated Series, she does have quite a fan following, but now she is more masculinized and her skin color looks different, and apparently her personality is different too. So they basically went in and created a entirely brand new character, but they didn't just do this with Livewire, actually. They also did it with Jimmy Olsen. Now, I found this article that praises how it's got a unique aesthetic, and they decided to offer new perspectives on the familiar Superman origin story with a few minor changes, and of course, diversity is one of the things that they highlight, but Jimmy Olsen is now different as well. Clark, Lois, and Jimmy are the same age, so of course they aged up Jimmy, and this isn't the first time that they have decided to, you know, play around with Jimmy Olsen. Of course, he used to be a ginger. He is no more, because Hollywood hates gingers, but he also, in the Supergirl series, was portrayed by a black man. I actually did think that this actor did a pretty good job as Jimmy, but you have to take a few things into consideration here, like the fact that he acted different and of course looked different than his comic counterpart, and he was aged up, so he was practically a brand new character. He was Jimmy Olsen in name only, just like it seems what they're doing with Livewire. And of course, this isn't going to sit well with fans of this. Of course, this is going to upset people. People are saying things like Livewire should be a former goth-looking woman. This abomination in the picture above is 100% not Livewire. She was a white goth girl that got struck by lightning and neon chemicals that mutated her into her iconic blue skin, blue eyes, and white thunder-like haircut. You know, this is just absurd. I can't believe they did this to her. The new one just looks so generic, and I, of course, completely agree. I am not a big fan of the way that they made Livewire look at this point. I can't really say that I'm all that surprised, though, and this series actually has a pretty good rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but keep in mind, these are almost the same exact scores audience-wise that something like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has, and a lot of people didn't like that. The scores are very suspicious, but right now it's sitting at a 100% critic, but it's only got 11 reviews, and the audience scores an 84%, but there's only 100 ratings, and keep in mind, there's only 2 episodes out at this point, so these people either saw 1 episode or saw the 2 episodes and decided to give it super high ratings because they think it's going to be good overall. I personally wouldn't judge these ratings until all of the content is out, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a few weeks until it's all released. We'll have to see what ends up happening, but they have made some major changes to, you know, very beloved characters, this story that we all know, and there are people who are extremely upset over all of the, you know, changes that they have made throughout this series already, and also who is a part of it. I mean, it's pretty bad when you've got She-Ra co-producers on a project. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.